This next segment is a tribute to all the Nonnas, those Italian-American grandmothers, daughters, and aunts that share the warmth of their kitchens and the love in their hearts. Lucinda Scala Quinn's latest cookbook, Mother Sauce, shares 100 iconic and beloved Italian-American recipes from the last century, and she joins me now. Hello,
Hi there.
hello.
Hi, Kelly.
So I'm so excited. What are we making today?
Oh my goodness, we're making an Italian wedding soup. Now, it doesn't mean it's for your wedding.
Okay. Get that out right now.
Wedding is a translation from the Neapolitan dialect, which really means wedding flavors together. Of greens, we've got escarole.
Okay.
And meat, we have meatballs, but what's fun about this recipe, we're making meatballs from sausage meat.
Yum.
So you just cut open the sausage and take it out and then weigh it as if you're using regular meatballs. And the reason why is back in the day, the Nonnas were very, very thrifty. Right?
Well,
and so,
I love an Italian sausage,
exactly.
so I'm excited.
So we have chicken broth here. I always save all the chicken parts and make my own broth. That's another little thrifty thing that the Nonnas knew to do. And what we did is we just dropped the meatballs in here.
Look at those.
And they're all cooked up and there's tons of flavor here.
It's so fragrant.
Oh, it smells so good. And this also shows you something that meatballs can be fried, they can be dropped, they can be small. So we have our broth here, which is super warm and inviting. We have our meatballs, so that is already, it's such a flavorful sauce, right?
Yum.
And now this is escarole. So they also, when the immigrant Italians came, they brought these greens with them that were from Italy. And this is escarole, which is a beautiful, delicious green. It's abundant, but and it's kind of mild, but it really, really, really just collapses down into nothing once you use it. So I'm going to give you something to stir with. And if you stir this, we're just going to add the escarole that's been cooked. And I'm sorry, cut.
Oh, I was going to say, that's been cooked? Okay, cut.
It's been cut. And in no time, it's going to just kind of collapse in there. And we're going to let it cook a little bit in that hot, hot broth.
And how long would something like this cook and simmer for?
Well, to have the greens tender, maybe 5 minutes or even less. That's the beauty of the escarole.
That is.
But again, what we're doing here is we're wetting the flavor of the greens into that broth and the meat. And then, to me, the funnest part, if you can help me with it.
Okay, I'm happy to.
So this is the finishing part. So I have some grated Parmesan here. It could be Romano cheese. And then take the eggs and just crack it in there, Kelly.
Okay.
All right?
2 eggs.
Yep. And then I'm going to add just a little salt and some black pepper. And this is the part that when I was a little girl with my own mother cooking was one of my favorite things to do. I'll take that. And then come on, you're doing great.
Okay, and then I'm whisking,
And then
right?
you're whisking. That's called whisking, and you're getting it all mixed up so that you've got like a cheesy, eggy, peppery mixture. And then this is the part, as I said, when I was a little girl, I'm my mom, my grandmother, and then we take that right there, and you can stop whisking because you've done such an amazing
job. I did a good job. Amazing.
And then you're slowly going to pour that cheesy egg mixture into here as I stir.
Okay.
Just slowly.
Slowly.
Yeah. And then when it hits that hot water, it's going to cook.
Yes.
And then when I was a little girl, my mom called it rag soup because once the cheese gets in there, it gets kind of raggy. I'll put this down here, right?
Okay.
And there you have it. You have Italian wedding soup, and it's rich, it smells incredible, and then just one last thing that we have right here. Oops, I made a little bit of a mess.
A little orzo?
Yeah, so another thing, when you're making soup, you don't cook your pasta in the soup or it'll absorb all of that chicken stock.
Oh, good to know.
So I like to cook it, whether it's rice or it's pasta, I do it separately. So we cooked it right here, right?
Yeah.
And then what we did is take this and put it into the bottom of the bowl here.
Okay.
And then just, spoon over with your ladle your beautiful soup here.
The
finished soup, right?
Oh.
And that's called, here it is, I'm going to give it another little so you can see, right? It's like a full meal, and then a lot of the time I brought along something else that I frequently serve it with, which is tomato pie.
Oh my gosh, I know, I was going to say, this bread is calling my name right now.
That's called tomato pie. That was one of the dishes that the Nonnas would make in the turn of the last century out of their kitchen for 2 cents. They'd sell those pieces. They'd use the old bread dough and some leftover tomatoes and make the tomato pie.
Okay, I'm gonna taste the tomato pie, and then obviously I have to taste the Italian wedding soup. So while I'm doing that, this book, Mother Sauce, it's not your first one, right? So
no,
tell
that's
me
my
about
eighth
it.
cookbook.
Eighth cookbook?
It's my 8th cookbook. It's the first really personal one where I get into the history of my own great-grandmother, Aquilina. She was an immigrant from Calabria and southern Italy.
Oh.
There she is with my
gosh.
grandmother and my great-grandmother and their whole 5 sisters, and then there were 4 more sons. And that's my Aunt Sarah. She was a nurse, and she was my grandmother's sister. And they all cooked. That's my grandmother. They all cooked, and I got in college. I went and visited them all, and they taught me all how to cook this food. And what I found out, that's Aunt Jane,
oh my goodness,
and Aunt Wally. They were all sisters, and their mother came. She had 3 transatlantic crossings. They had no money, no resources, but she built this business, and they had a very rich life. And it was the food that. So I found out by writing this book. This was the story of the immigrant Italian grandmother all over this country.
Right.
They really built this Italian-American foodway that today we know of, right? So when you think of the fact that they came under difficult circumstances, had very few resources, yet they persevered, they cooked, they brought greens from their country, they were frugal, and here we are, Callie, 100 years later, and it's one of the most popular foodways in America, right? Every kid eats pasta and pizza.
It's true.
I mean, it doesn't matter whether you're Italian or not.
No,
right?
It's my favorite cuisine by far. What else do you love to make from this book too? And this tomato pie is absolutely amazing, okay?
So the tomato pie, also that dough makes something called prosciutto bread, which is a rolled bread. It's inside with like the prosciutto pieces, and that has a tremendous history. So that's nice. I was telling Joseph backstage, I love the chicken oreganato because it can be made quickly.
Ooh.
But at the same time, I love the Sunday sauce because the Sunday sauce is what is historical about the Nonnas and the grandmas, like the mamas and my aunts. Like they start on a Saturday, they buy all the food, they make this big bubbling pot of sauce with like meatballs and pork and beef, and then they go to Mass, and after Mass, come home and have a huge feast. And what did the guys do? They made the wine in the basement.
Well, that might be me usually. I'm going to dive into this too, and tell me about a section 2 of the cookbook, Mama Knew.
So one of the wonderful things I found when I did all this research, not only about my own family, but about everybody else, was that they were employing these strategies in order to stretch food. So they didn't necessarily have the money for the expensive cheeses, so they would take breadcrumbs, saute it in olive oil and garlic, maybe a little anchovy, and that would have the salty, crunchy bit that you would want to put on top of pasta. If they were cutting an onion, a carrot, a celery, and peeling, they would never throw those peels out. They would accumulate them in a bag and then make a vegetable broth.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for being here. This is fantastic. You don't have to have it at a wedding, okay? You
No,
can have
that's
it every
true.
day.
Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you. And Lucinda will be at the Book Larder tonight for an author talk and book signing. Another of New Day's favorite cookbook authors, Seattle's Xiao Ching Chow, will facilitate that conversation. And you can find ticket information on the Book Larder's website.
New Day Northwest Kitchen is brought to you by Safeway.